Welcome to Rambam in Depth. Today we'll be discussing the Rambam Hilchos Torah ונטען, the very beginning, Perek Aleph, Halacha Aleph. Hatayin es chaveri b'metaltalin, v'haydele b'miksasan. If someone comes to claim that his fellow owes him something, a movable object, and the person from whom he's asking for payment, v'haydele and he admits to some of it. Person comes to his friend and he says, "You owe me $1,000." He says, "No, I only $500." He has to pay whatever he agreed. And he has to swear about the rest. In other words, he has to swear that he doesn't owe the other $500. And this, he says, is min ha-Torah. This is based on the Torah. Shenemar, because it says in Parshat Mishpatim, he will say, "For this is it." The context over there is if someone makes a claim that someone owes him money because he gave him something to guard, and he says, "This is it." In other words, this is the only thing I owe you. I don't owe you all of what you're asking. And the Torah says that he has to swear about the rest. So here we have a halacha that if a person confesses to owing money, he's obligated to pay. And not only is he obligated to pay, but if he denies part of it, he has to swear about the rest. What is the basis to say that a person could testify about himself? There's a principle in halacha, Adam karev eitzel atzmai, a person is related to himself, and just like you can't testify in behalf of a relative because you're related to that person, Moshe Rabbeinu could not testify about his brother Aaron, because they're brothers, even though Moshe Rabbeinu was certainly believed. And there's a halacha that ein adam mesim atzmei rash, a person cannot testify about himself to incriminate himself. If you confess to a crime, it's not accepted. So why is it that when you confess and you admit that you owe money, that creates a biblical obligation to pay it? So Rashi in Masechet Kiddushin of Hasamachei Yomit Beis says that it's based on this pasuk, that the Torah says when a person says, "Ki hu zeh," this is it, this is what I owe you, and he has to pay, that shows that you're believed to testify about your own financial obligation. There are three different opinions. What is the logic behind this obligation? The Ketzot, the famous Ketzot in Chesed Mishpat Simin Lamed Daled, brings the Maharibal ben Lev, and then the Ketzot has his own approach, and then there's a third approach from the Tashbetz, one of the late Rishonim. The Ketzot holds it's a dinyan of namanus. You're believed. That even though you're not normally not believed to testify about yourself, but when it comes to testifying about financial matters, the Torah, based on this pasuk, gives you nemanus, gives you the trustworthiness that you were believed, just like witnesses. Just like witnesses are believed, the same way, you are believed about your own financial matters. The Maharibal ben Lev, one of the early Achreinim, cited by the Ketzot, holds no, it's not based on namanus, because a person is not believed on himself. He's a relative to himself. But it's a dim his chayvus. Since you have the ability, when you're dealing with financial matters, to give someone whatever you have that is your own, so that means that not that you're believed. You're not believed. You're not like a witness. What it is that since you could obligate yourself, therefore, whatever you say you owe, because a person could obligate himself. And then there's a third view, the view of the Tashbetz, which is a cross between the Ketzot and the Maharibal ben Lev. The Maharibal ben Lev says it's not nemanus. It's not that you're believed. You have the power to obligate yourself. The Ketzot says it's nemanus, like witnesses. The Tashbetz says it's nemanus based on the fact that you have the ability to give away your money. Since you have that ability, that gives you nemanus. It has nothing to do with edus. It's not a testimony of edus. You can testify about yourself. And this third view makes a lot of sense based on a famous Radvaz. The Radvaz explains why is it that ein adam mesim atzmei rasha, you can't confess to a crime. Why can't you confess that you committed murder or you committed another crime? So the answer is, the Radvaz explains, because your body doesn't belong to you. So when you confess to a crime that's punishable either by death or by lashes, you're subjecting your body to a punishment, and you have no power over your body because your body doesn't belong to you. It's a very famous principle that's based on a Rambam. The Rambam, when he talks about murder, he says that the victim cannot, if the victim didn't die right away, and the victim says to the Bezdin, please forgive the assailant, forgive the murderer, I have nothing against him, I want you to forgive him, it doesn't help. Why? So the Rambam says, because the person, you have no bilus, you're not an owner of your own body. It's Kinyan HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You are in the possession of Hashem. God is your owner. And the Alter Rebbe in his Shulchan Aruch explains also, based on this principle, that if you give someone permission to injure you, you can't do that. Why? Because your body doesn't belong to you. So therefore, you can't testify about a criminal matter which subjects you to penalty, because then you have no authorization to do something against your body. It's like someone else's body. You have no power over someone else's body. How can you have power over your own? It's the same thing. It doesn't belong to you. Mashein Kain, by contrast, your money, Hashem does give you ownership. You have the power to transfer your money, and therefore there's no reason why you shouldn't be believed. So the way that from the Radvaz's perspective, the truth is that really you should be believed on yourself, but the only reason you can't be believed in certain cases is because you don't have any bilus, you have no ownership of your body. But when it comes to money, which you have ownership, sure you're believed to testify because you have ownership, so you can give away whatever you want, and therefore you have the right to admit that you owe the money, because the fact that you have ownership gives you the namanus, gives you the trustworthiness, and you could therefore obligate yourself.